Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday public meeting of the BOCC. We'll start the meeting if you would join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask Commissioner Mortensen to review minutes from our last meeting.
Indeed, glad to do that. I did review the minutes of the activities of last week and I moved to approve them. Approve the minutes, that is.
Got a motion on the floor to approve. Questions, comments, corrections? Yeah.
Does that include everything that was discussed at the last meeting? And will you take public comment on that?
I would assume it included everything last meeting. You have a correction, a comment on?
I have a comment which I tried to make at the last meeting, which you, Commissioner Dahl, pushed aside for a public comment period. That's why I asked that question. My comment is on several specific items on the interlocal agreement between Cowlitz County and Mason County for disposal of certain solid waste. I have questions on items. Will they be allowed at this time?
Where in the minutes are you questioning? We're looking for corrections or something on the minutes.
Well, you discussed the whole interlocal agreement on the last minutes of last week's commissioner meeting.
I got it, and it's open for discussion when we get to there, but right now I'm looking for if the minutes are wrong, we can correct those.
Well, I have.
It sounds like you
questions.
want to discuss something else. And
I have questions on several points on that interlocal agreement.
then I would push that again to public comment because right now we're looking for corrections on the minutes.
Well, since you didn't allow them the last time, I see you're running smoke again. So I see no point in a person of this county coming to make comments at this meeting when they're disavowed the first time and now the second time.
You can
So
make comments during
I will
public
have
comments.
no comments on it since you people are disallowing it.
Sir, would you explain to me what you think the purpose of the minutes are?
Government, Commissioner Dahl. It's not happening here. You know it and I know. If you can't control your meeting with these extraneous comments, you didn't do it the last time, you're not doing it now.
Any corrections on the minute?
Why I don't come, because you can't control your meeting.
You can't control your mouth. You moron. You sit there and.
Dave. Okay, it's okay. Let him go. He only hurts himself. Any corrections, comments on the minutes?
If I might make a comment, in the minutes, basically, they can be very Spartan or very verbose. It's a choice of whoever is taking the minutes. They are obligated to put any action items in there, and we do that in every case. We can talk for hours and you won't see a verbatim transcript in there. This is not the purpose of the minutes. The purpose of the minutes is to give the public an indication of the topics that were handled, and then subsequently the citizen can go to the actual recording and find where that was discussed. Anyhow, that was just my comment.
Okay. Anything further on the minutes? Seeing none, I call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Consent agenda. I'll go through the consent agenda, but we're gonna add one item and delete one item. Items 12 through 15 are all Spillman records. They're records that law enforcement uses. We were adding a contract with the city of Woodland that just came in. So that will be added. Item number 27, we're taking out because we cannot vote on that until after the public hearing we have scheduled for at 9:45. So I'll run through the agenda with those two changes. Call for hearing, we have a revised call for hearing. It'll be held call for hearing on final expenditure requests and revenue estimates for the Cowlitz County budget. It's scheduled for 12/19 of this year at 10 a.m. Agreements, contracts, bid awards. Agreement for special purpose district general election schedule for Dyking districts. Dyking districts and the flood districts have the ability to run their own elections if they want to, or they can contract with our elections office and have them do it. And that's what this is. They have a 2-year agreement with our election office to run those. Items 3 through 11 are agreements with the various law enforcement agencies for use of the shooting range out at our facility. Those, the sheriff office kind of works with those. Items 12 through 15 plus the contract that was handed to us today from Woodland is agreements to participate in the Spillman Records Management System, which is a law enforcement management system. Those fees are kind of, I can just give you a brief. It's kind of built on the size of, like Castle Rock for 2004 will pay $7,094. A bigger city, Longview, $60,944. So it's kind of built to the city, but they help cover the cost of that software. 16, a personal service agreement with Children's Justice and Advocacy Center to reduce the trauma of the children. Basically what this is a child forensic interviewer. It's a total annual cost of $79,606, which is an increase of $23,19 from the last agreement. Professional service agreement with Reliable Administration Services to support the Spillman software in the amount of $66,000. An addendum with PPC Solution Phoenix. They do the security for the Hall of Justice, Juvenile Detention Center, and Cowlitz County Corrections. This is a contract that started in April 2020. This is the final year of an extension for this contract. The amount for this year is $424,600, which is a little over about a 4.5% increase over last year. Items 19 through 24 are all easements pertaining to the Cloverdale bridge work out in Cloverdale, the bridge. I think what it sounded like yesterday, we have maybe 3 more left on this one to secure. 25, an agreement with Cascade Software Systems for the purchase of WinCam's cost accounting management. This is for public works. It's an agreement we approved for $225,000 plus. It's an accounting system that is used by many counties. Right now, our public works uses an Excel spreadsheet, so we're trying to bring them a little bit more into efficiency, and they've actually done quite a bit of work in looking and making sure the system works for them. Agreement, local agency consulting agreement with OTAC. We're extending that agreement to December 31st, 2025. Originally, I think came due at the end of this year, but they've had this pertains to the Allender Road Bridge replacement project. They've run into some of the issues I heard yesterday is they discovered they have mussels out there. They have a wood duck population that they need to relocate. So there's just been some issues going into it. So they've extended the timeline on that. Resolutions number 27 has been moved off the consent agenda. Resolution to certify levies for special districts in Cowles County General Fund. Board correspondence. We had a letter from Federal Energy Regulatory Commission extending, giving us an extension on a SWIFT #2 project. We went in and had to make some repairs, and they can't go back in there until between some date in July and August, when there's the least amount of habitat disturbance. So FERC gave us an extension on that. And then the Bar Association of Cowlitz-Wahkiakum sent us a press release to fund therapeutic coach in Cowlitz County. That's the consent agenda. Questions on concerns?
Do you know if on item 17, that's 66,000 is annual?
I don't.
I
did
would
look that
suspect
one
it
up.
is, but
Usually those type of agreements are, but
yeah. Well, Brad's on, he might know.
Yes, it is. That's an
Okay,
actual
thank you.
cost.
go ahead, Ron.
Okay, item number 16. It says we're spending $79,606 for creating a solitary place for children. Does anybody know what the real details of that are? You said it was a continuation from last year, and I'm just trying to view that if it was my money, $79,000, I'd want to know specifically what they're doing, what the metrics are, and have a report, as Arn has requested on a number of these things, that we get a quarterly report or something for what is really being accomplished.
I don't know that I have answers to all that. When I pulled it up and looked at it, it looked like it was for the service of a child forensics interviewer, which seems a little bit different than what it was written up as.
So if it's going to be creating something, we would want to know what they're creating. Number two, if it's for interviews and other things, there's some metrics that can say how many or whatever has been done on a quarterly report or something, so that you can represent our $79,000 in accomplishing something. Because in society, we know we're continually going underwater. So we need to have things that are going to accomplish things
Yeah.
and get some accomplishments.
Brad's on the line. I think you're there to answer a question or two on that, Brad?
That's correct. And I believe the executive director of the CJAC Center, Kristen Mendez, I know she's going to be elevated panelist. I know she was going to tune in, but now nothing new is being created. The CJAC Center has been in existence since 2009. They're a nonprofit. They're also funded by us and the cities, and their primary focus is interviewing child abuse victims. They also provide some advocacy for them and their families, medical and also counseling that goes along with that. Kids involved in this kind of trauma. There's nothing new being created, and I think it's just a term for each individual child. They create a safe environment for each individual child coming through the process and system.
Okay, you said it's been in place since what, Brad?
2009.
Okay, so again, in private enterprise, we go ahead and look at the results each year and know that each year we can do a little tweaking, a little bit of learning, and a little bit of experience in improving the results or whatever we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and Executive Director Kristen Mendez is there. She's been with the CJAC Center for most of its existence as an interviewer, and most recently in the last about 6 months became the Executive Director. And she would have that information on the number of interviews I've conducted annually, that type of thing. So Kristen, if you have anything to add. Kristen, your mic's not on. Yeah, but, it's like Kristen's microphone's not working, it says in the chat there, so.
Okay,
So
She
is
says
there
she-
any form of a report or anything that our commissioners get that lets us know, or us in the taxpayers realm get to know on accomplishments, successes, et cetera?
I think Kristen is going to try to call
try to
in.
call in.
Well, she's getting I guess, tuned in there. I just want to add, it's a remote, former doctor's office, actually, offsite. That's a non-law enforcement environment for families and the kids to come in and be interviewed by a civilian plainclothes person who's highly trained in this. And our local center is nationally accredited as a child justice advocacy center. And they set a high standard, and we rely on them heavily in these cases. And unfortunately, we have a lot of child abuse cases in our county that we deal with.
Is this a precursor to getting CPS involved?
No, CPS is part of this, and they, along with law enforcement, work along with this Child Justice Advocacy Center, and CPS relies on them as well for interviewing kids as well.
So is this a location, or it's a service? Because the abuse usually happens at home, I would think, is the issue here. And that's not necessarily a good place to be under these circumstances.
In terms of conducting an interview and investigation, is that what you're alluding to?
All of the above. It says reduce the trauma, and I think there's a solitary place for it's if a child goes before someone gets interviewed and then goes back into the environment, that's a question I'm asking. Is that what actually happens here?
Hey, it depends on the circumstances. More often than not, when the kids are brought in, they're already out of the environment. Either law enforcement or CPS has been involved, and at least try to eliminate any threat to them or concern for their safety by that point.
I am on the line now.
Okay,
I'm on the line now. Sorry, this is Kristen.
go ahead.
Hi. In regards to, yes, we have been around since 2009, and we've served over 2,000 children. We serve approximately 200 per year, children in Cowlitz County. And our role is to create we have an environment, the building, the Children's Justice and Advocacy Center, is a neutral third-party environment where a child is interviewed by an expert in child forensic interviewing. And so this has changed the course of interviewing from past cases where a detective might interview a child or a responding officer who may not be familiar with how children experiencing trauma should be interviewed, even though they may be really good at talking with people in general. The interview does take place here in our building with law enforcement observing the interview along with prosecution and CPS at the time, if they're involved at the time. This streamlines the investigation, and research from the National Children's Alliance has shown that we save about $1,000 per child interviewed in investigative costs by streamlining those investigations. So communication is coordinated communication, coordinated staffings of cases happen with all of the players involved. We do that once per month. We're also available on emergency basis, so an interviewer will come in on the weekends or evenings when needed. A detective just needs to call, And in fact, we did that Saturday for a case. And we'll come in and make sure that all the parties are present for that interview, and then refer that child out for specialized medical and mental health services. Interviewers also act as both fact and expert witnesses in court. So again, that cuts down on the number of time that law enforcement needs to prepare to discuss an interview in court and keep up on the latest research and studies on child abuse and the statistics regarding child abuse and neglect for children. Did I answer the question? We do send out a yearly report that is available to anyone in the county as well.
Okay, so that would be on these requests for funds, it would be nice to put down a resource or a source where a person can look at the details or look at the success or whatever you're doing. What triggered me was creating, and I kind of throws a red flag up in the air anytime I see my funds being used to create something in today's society. So it's more promoting and following in that path. So thank you for that. And you
Thank you for
mentioned, it
bringing
sounds
that up.
like there's a whole lot of people involved in this. Do their wages and salaries, like the police association or sheriffs, get charged to this $79,000 account, or is the true cost really much greater than this?
The true cost is greater when you the money from the county is solely used for the forensic interviewer. So any of our funding from other places comes from other places. So, for example, just the cost to run the building. We are a very small organization, a two-person organization. We do not have much overhead at all, and are very frugal with our funds that we receive.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So I am curious, you said the cost is 1,000 per child. What was the cost to which you were referring there?
So the research has shown when they look at these investigations, both with a child forensic interview and a child advocacy center involved versus without one, they estimate that the cost per investigation is decreased by $1,000 per child. So in our case, if we'd served 175 children last year, it would be 100. I'm not a mathematician, so please correct me if I get this wrong. 175,000 saved by taxpayers simply because you have someone who is coordinating. So we coordinate between law enforcement and prosecution and CPS when they're involved. So instead of everyone conducting a parallel investigation, they're now communicating together. And so duplication of work is not happening as often as it would have in the past when people were working separately on investigations.
Okay, the only concern I'd ever have is along the lines of the gentleman's concern, but that's been addressed. I was under the impression that CPS was actively involved in all of these kinds of things, and even emergency support shelter also. So the thing I see around here is if you talk to our HHS deputy director, you'll see pages of agencies that tackle things, and it's never really, I shouldn't say it that way. It isn't necessarily clear to me the necessity of this particular this particular element of the program. It may be. I just don't know it.
I would, and Arn, I would be happy to meet with you or any of the commissioners and give you a tour and also go more into depth regarding all of that if you would like. I would be happy to do that.
I appreciate that.
Sure. CPS is involved in some cases when they occur in the home or when a family is not protecting a child. However, they are not involved in all cases. They don't always screen into their agency. And so sometimes these are just law enforcement case investigations alone. And so when they are involved, we do coordinate with them. And if concerns come up during an investigation that law enforcement may have that may need to involve CPS, we will then report that and make sure that they do get involved as well. But they are also not interviewing children for sex abuse cases that require a higher level of interview skill and a higher level of understanding of trauma and how to interview children for those cases so that it's not re-traumatizing a child.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add that the CPS doesn't have any criminal enforcement or investigative authority. They have to do with welfare of the child long-term. When it comes to actual criminal allegations of physical or sexual abuse, that falls to law enforcement. And this is a one-stop streamlined process for the families and the children involved, and get one interview on the record. And all parties can be part of that or have access to that. Like Shay alluded to, law enforcement, prosecution, and the CPS as well.
Good morning. I would just like to say, as a staff at the Community Mediation Center, we recently attended a business after hours with these three agencies. They are presenting what they do in our community for these children. And it was impressive how they work together and they network together with other agencies in the community to address the needs of these families and children. So I do want to commend you for your fine work, and we really appreciate what you're doing for Cowlitz County.
Thank you.
Very good. So if I might add, I appreciate having constituents that have knowledge that we can share and understand the benefits of these programs. So if I might take and go to item 29B, which is the letters and releases on the Bar Association. It was a month ago or a month and a half ago or whatever, we had a Bar Association representative promoting the sixth judge. Again, they were promoting that it was going to save us money. When we finally talked through it, it doesn't save us money as the taxpayers, because it's just coming out of different pockets, whether it's Olympia or here. I'm hoping that the Bar Association was honest and truthful and transparent in their notification.
Any other questions, comments on consent agenda? Okay, I would entertain a motion, just reiterate again that we are adding the Woodland Spillman contract, and we are moving item 27 till after the public hearing.
So I did have a question
Sure.
about that. The public hearing is for consideration of the Transportation Improvement Program, right?
Right.
Okay. And item 28 is the resolution for certifying the levies that this board has selected, as well as the other special districts throughout the county.
Right.
So we will delay that one. Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve today's consent agenda as presented by staff, with the addition of the agreement with Woodland for use of the Spillman system, and the elimination of item number 27 for consideration after the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any other comments? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like permission to leave as
That's
your
fine.
representative on the county, the Cowlitz County Economic Development Council. I've been asked to meet with potential investors at the old Reynolds site. That'll take most of the rest of the morning.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we have a public hearing at 9:45, so we'll open up for public comments. I will say tomorrow, the afternoon session was Community House on Broadway. It still is Community House on Broadway, but we've also added budget into that. We'll have discussion on mental health tax and drug court. So that'll be added to the afternoon session tomorrow. So we have a few minutes before 9:45 if we're open for public comment.
Good morning, fellas. I'm back here in regards to Allen County Sheriff Department. And we had a meeting with Brad Thurman, November 14th, in regards to his officers and the conduct that we've witnessed out there at Paradise Cove in relationship to the state's attorney complaints against Paradise Cove and the violence that's gone on out there. During that meeting, it was blocked out for 2 hours by his assistant. I think her name is Shelley. That's the first I've heard of his assistant because I tried to get a hold of him throughout the summer on several occasions with his clerks in the office. That meeting began at about 1:15 and ended at 2:20. The first part of that meeting was this by Mr. Brad Thurman. Mr. Johnson, you will not interrupt me. You will not talk about my men or we'll end this meeting. Well, the sole reason why we were there is because of these statements. And he was angry. His jowls were shaking and it was intimidating. I rolled back in my chair and just listened. Mr. Hanby was also present. He didn't say too much at all. We let them know about certain things, but they didn't want to hear about anything about their officers' conduct. Well, that was what that reason for that appointment. Furthermore, they had no idea of Paul Lee French and Betty Jean Flowers, the managers of this park. Here we go, fellas. 12 months of police reports, CAD, dispatch, and misconduct. Me and Joanna looked at each other in regards to that meeting. Prior to it ending, Mr. Hanby goes, "Can we look these guys up on Google? Are you serious? We have law enforcement people asking a 73-year-old young lady, can we look them up on Google? Aren't they the law enforcement people that, what I find odd is during this meeting, Mr. Brad Thurman said, Mr. Johnson, you have a checkered past and you better tone it down. And he took his index finger and his thumb and he took it to about 1/4 of an inch because I do know measurements. Okay, 5/16, 1/4 of an inch. You need to tone it down out there because you're creating quite a reputation. And I said, what, a reputation of telling the truth? I said, everything in this meeting I've told the truth about. Everything I've came to the Board of Commissioners, I've told the truth about. And that's exactly how I explained it to him. Officer Hamby did talk a little bit about one statement. It sounds like they added a supplement to the March 4th incident of Joanna Barnhart's violation order. And Deputy Jones, that me and Joanna have no idea who he is, said that I was misrepresenting the sheriff's department by my statements. That came much later after the first CAD because I ordered CAD statements and dispatch reports prior. So this came after I had came to you folks and let you know what was going on out there. I will say again, there are additions to these statements that are totally unfounded. The same thing about, we mentioned to Brad Thurman in that meeting, the camera that was pointed directly at the house that day that they didn't want to look at and said they didn't have to. And if you read the statement of the March 4th incident. The officer even said, Officer Doyle that came to us said, yeah, he said he flipped you guys off. And he said Joanna's back was turned. That's an absolute lie. And then he said that, if you read the statement, it says, Douglas Ralph Hatley flipped, they say he flipped somebody off out in nowhere. They didn't even state the specifics of who he was flipping off. Now, if you call that good reporting, and what I've learned over the last year is, and I'm a little nervous and I'm a little upset, but what I've learned over the last year, I've heard these officers say, well, we got a lot of area to cover. Well, if you would file a correct writing report that can actually prosecute in court or vindicate, we would get cases solved. This is not cases solved. This is utterly ridiculous. And if Brad Thurman thinks we're going to move, and I want to remind you folks, with the Judge Hayes on the order of Joanna Barnhart, we went to the prosecuting office to get the orders interpreted because they were trying to say that wasn't good enough. We went down and we spoke with Troy Brightbill. He told us that Judge Hayes was new and didn't know what he was doing on his orders. He said the judges were new and didn't know what they were doing. And I said, I want to file a complaint. He said, you won't get anywhere with it. If that is not negligence, what about protecting and serving our people in this community? These statements have to be looked at. And we certainly don't want Cowlitz County Sheriff's internal investigations because they're part of the problem. And I find it just amazing that they're asked to go down and investigate the guy that the chief that, or the sergeant that died up against his desk on the drug overdose in Battleground. Who do we trust here? That lady there accused him of domestic violence and got punched in the head in the bathroom. And then now he's on the Brady's list after he's dead. This is the thing I brought to you guys way back in June. We have a problem with them and he's angry. And I told him he was angry twice in that meeting. And I asked him twice in that meeting this. I said, you mean to tell me you did not know anything about these people? He said, yes. And I asked him twice, but he said he has full confidence in his officers. I want to know what the county is going to do about this. We pay these people. And who do we get to investigate these people other than the people I've told you? I've notified 4 news teams out of Portland and Seattle about this, and I hope they are reining in on this because it is a systemic problem. And it's not just in our community, it's other places, but I can tell you right now, I'm not changing my truth for Brad Thurman, anybody whatsoever. And I asked him about Mr. Rick Dahl. He said he merely is an acquaintance, but Rick Dahl also knew that he was over visiting his grandchildren. And I mentioned that to him in that meeting. They didn't want to hear anything we had to say. They didn't care about what's happened. And so I'm going to refer to a couple of statutes. And I think one of them, let me see, I was doing this at 1:30 this morning because of this crap. (9A46) unlawful harassment. When you have a repetitive harassment, like being called a fucking faggot, and I'm going to kick your ass, that's an arrestable offense. It should have been taken care of that day when Officer Blanton came out, when I told him he was out of his mind. And he was talking about the cameras not working and they were saying something about a prior argument. I just came from the courthouse getting a public records request. I spent probably 2 hours down there. And then it says on the report that I called in an order violation. I don't even have an order. I should have an order and I hope to have one soon. What kind of reports are these? And then I'm the reporting person on October 26th. They go to the office first. they send us a junior officer, which was Officer Ward, a young pup. And we didn't have much to say, except I know he has 5 kids. We need to find out what's really going on, and I want to meet or Officer Jones, which is the OIC on that March 4th incident. Because me and Joanna would like to meet him. Because we didn't see him that day. There was 5 Suburbans in that parking lot. And none of those guys could arrest this guy. They said it was a clerical error. We had already checked into it prior. We had checked into it after. They said down there at the courthouse, no, the restraining order was valid. I'm sure Judge Hayes would really like to hear that the Cowlitz County Sheriff's Department is saying they don't know what they're doing as judges. Now, am I telling the truth or am I telling lies? And why would I be down here for the first time in my life over this last year at a commissioners meeting to begin with? It's because I'm telling the truth. And it has to be researched. I will say this, met with Jeremy yesterday. I guess Victoria Blasel's gone now, the other risk manager. Just like the other guy that came out to the RV park that was an inspector, he disappeared. Well, Jeremy was quite compassionate and caring. Joanna started crying in his office. He isn't even unpacked yet. I've been in the hospital. He called me a fucking faggot and said he was going to kick my ass. When do we do something about this, gentlemen? That's what I want to know. And Brad Thurman don't care. We found that out November 14th at 1 o'clock between the hours of 1:15 and 2:20. Is there a district attorney in this Cowlitz County that we can talk to? Because the prosecuting attorney, when we wanted our orders interpreted, they didn't even want to talk to us. They said, go see Brad. Well, is that the gentleman we want to talk to? No. So do we get the state troopers involved? I'm open for suggestions.
What I can tell you now is what we have told you before. We have no control over the sheriff's office. You, I think, are doing about the best you can do by going over to the AG and saying, I've got an issue here. It's at your level, the AG, you've got to do something here to help us. So we have no sway in the matter.
Are these officers paid by Cowlitz County?
The officers are paid by Cowlitz County, yes.
Okay. Well, their conduct is unbecoming. And under the color of law, they have lied. They've omitted statements. If you look at the February 5th incident, 5th, 6th, and 7th, on my first call in regards to all this crap, if you listen to the dispatch report and then you look at the CAD report the officer wrote, you would think, what is that? And then I also referred to Victoria Blasel, your deputy director of HR and your director of HR, the day we met with them when they didn't want to record anything. I said, there's a gentleman down in Texas that's a retired police officer or an acting police officer. And you know what he said? I read his webpage and everything, and I actually put out a call to him, and I haven't talked to him yet. He said, the failure in the police departments is the writing of the reports. Well, I believe that's correct, but I also believe it's intentional here. And now they're targeting me, trying to say Mr. Johnson's the problem. What I don't understand, guys, and look at logic here. Every report I have is at my home and in my yard, not chasing them down. In the last 3 weeks, I had them taking pictures of me. Me and Joanna came in from the courthouse again. The manager's filming us as we drive by in the car. I've been called a fucking faggot. I've been flipped off. She's been flipped off twice. What? This is the problem. So if they're getting paid by Cowlitz County, then I guess we need to talk to Jeremy again and the deputy director, because we are going to file a tort claim because nobody wants to listen. And if these attorneys in the district and the prosecuting attorney can read these statements, they're going to laugh. It's horrible. No wonder you guys can't put anybody in jail. And I hope Mr. Thurman is listening, because his tone and his voice and his action in that meeting was just what his officers obviously represent. I've had 12 months of this shit, and he's had one meeting at 1 o'clock, between 1 and 2:20. And I hope you don't raise your eyebrows too much about that, Rick, because I've seen a lot worse in here. I've seen a lot worse, sir. Okay.
I'm not raising, what I'm telling you is we need to get to a public hearing. I've given you 15 minutes.
Okay,
If you want to
Thank
do
you.
after the public hearing, we'll listen to you more.
thank you.
But like my colleague says, we don't control the sheriffs and there's not a whole lot we're going to do for you.
Well, then we need to
But,
talk to
but
Jeremy.
I would like to get into the public hearing if we can.
Okay. I thank you for your time, but if you think I'm moving, Rick, I'm not. And this all stems from what we brought to you in regards to that RV park that you called me a liar about. Okay?
Once again, we disagree, but go ahead.
And the difference between a structure.
Okay, we'll get into a public hearing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
not enough disagreement, it's facts. All we gotta do is get the manuscript.
Yeah, we have different definition of facts. Sure. I know it's a long list.
So if any fellow in the audience are interested, I've put out PowerPoint that we're gonna go over the student priority arrays, the annual program, the 6-year program, and the report, then these can just be lost.
Okay. Unless you speak into the microphone.
Y'all ready?
Ready.
All right, good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. I'm here today to do our annual presentation of the 6-year program and then the annual program. We bring these forward to the board every year in December for adoption prior to the budget. State law requires them be presented and adopted prior to the budget, first the 6-year plan and then the annual program. So I've got a little PowerPoint to run through both programs to give you an idea of what Public Works has planned coming up in the next 6 years. So this program runs from 2024 to 2029. So on the next page, we define the WAC that requires the 6-year program. The 6-year program is required by state law. And once it's adopted, we upload it into the state's program and it becomes part of the statewide transportation improvement plan for approval that everyone can see. So our statewide, our program lists out the projects, where we're expecting funding coming from, and what type of project it is. So our main projects types are roadway corridors, and those are the projects where we go through and we improve a whole corridor. We widen the roadway, improve the curves, and do a whole new repavement. We have bridge replacements or rehabilitations. We have several of those coming up, drainage improvements, and those apply to any drainage structure that is under 20 feet. A bridge is defined as anything with an open span of 20 feet or greater, and they are all on the national database. Then we have short spans, which are 6 feet to 20 feet that you'll commonly hear us talking about. And then just anything under 6 feet is a regular drainage culvert. We do restoration projects. So that is our chip seal, our overlays, projects of that nature. And then we clump a bunch of stuff together as safety. Safety is intersections improvements, guardrail, sign improvements, things of that nature. So
Just a quick question. In terms of drainage improvements or any of these, this is only in the county.
this is only in the county. It does not include projects within the city limits. These-
And what level of cooperation is there, or are you even allowed to have cooperation? Say there's some low spots in a municipality and it floods.
So if it directly impacts a county project, we can be involved with it doing joint projects. If it is a city project only, we generally are not involved. The transportation officials, so myself, the public works directors, the city engineers, we meet monthly at the COG and is the facilitator, and we discuss projects and what we have upcoming.
So is it possible for the county public works to join in or help a municipality, even if it's only in the municipality that needs work?
County road funds cannot be used outside of
Okay,
the
thank
county. So county road funds are very limited. You can only use them on county roads unless they are diverted from the road fund, or we're using them for traffic control through the sheriff's department, which this county does not do.
That's a diversion versus a levy shift.
Yes, a diversion, you can divert funds and then report what you've diverted for the sheriff to do traffic enforcement activities.
And just for people to understand, diverted funds actually have to be paid back to the road fund.
Diverted funds only have to be paid back if they are not used for traffic enforcement activities.
Enforcement activity. So it wouldn't fix any drainage because that's
No.
right. Okay, thank you.
So then this slide represents our 24-29 program broken down by year. As you can see, the first 2 years tend to be the lightest. These are our most constrained years. So these projects generally have secured funding through the county or an outside source. And as moving forward, they get less secured. So that is why 28 and 29, you see 41 million, and in 2027, 32 million. So we keep our projects on there because when you apply for grants, if it's on your 6-year program, you're more likely to be funded, even if it's something we haven't started work on. This is a breakdown on how the projects are currently being funded. We have about $43.7 million of federal funding, either secured or planned, 18.7 of state funding, and then 58.8 currently on the local, which if every 2 years, we have approximately $2 million to put towards our local projects. So obviously my plan will not fess out with just the $2 million. There are an occasional grant, and there's one in here project. We actually have 2 projects in here that are 100% funded, which is really nice when those grant opportunities come forward. You see the breakdown. We have 34.1 million currently secured and 87 million that we are still searching for funding on.
So excuse me, are we able to ask a couple of questions along the way?
I think the public hearing, once she gets through and then I open it, then we can, Ron. That's
Okay.
the way they work. Thank you.
So then this just breaks our projects down by project type. Our corridor improvements of 45 million, bridge replacement of 30 million, drainage of 30 million, 6 million in restoration and 9.4 in safety projects in the current list. So let's move down to what you guys are actually going to see in the next year moving on. So we'll move into the 2024 annual program. So the first project I have displayed is the South Cloverdale project and the South Cloverdale Comfort intersection. You heard us talking about that today with the easements. So we have scheduled for 2024 the intersection project, $250,000, and on the road itself, 5.2. What you see as the second number for 2025, it is not uncommon for these projects to run long. So we do the majority of the work in the first year and we finish them up in the second by doing the lift and the striping. This project, we're looking at a February go out to bid date. If our right-of-way continues as it's going. We have approximately 2.4 million of federal STP funds in this project, 1.3 million of state funds from CRAB. We have just under $2 million of ARPA funds that were dedicated to this project. We are putting in 4 to 6 foot shoulders. There's one short section where we had to go down to 4, but the rest of it is 6. We're replacing 2 fish barrier culverts, and we are realigning some of the curves as part of this project.
So after the work has been done, what will it look like to the citizen? Like those 2 pictures look fine.
So the pavement will be restored, brand new mat of pavement. The intersection, so the picture on the left, it has sight distance issues. So we are lowering that intersection because when you get to it, you can't see. So we're lowering the grade into that intersection to improve the sight distance when you're turning on to Cloverdale and off of South Cloverdale. There are the culverts we're replacing. So we're going to have a road with wide shoulders so that people can walk, ride their bikes, pull partially off the road if they break down, is what it'll look like. I'm not sure if that's one of the curves that is being flattened as you go through it because it's a blind S curve. Some of those are being addressed. Their radius is increased and their vertical curve, so you don't go have some blind spots, will be addressed.
You're not straightening the S curve.
So we are straightening out one curve in there where one of the culverts is. We're increasing the radius of that curve and we're shifting the road quite substantially in one section. And then we're straightening out some of the other curves by making them longer radius.
And in situations like this, the citizens traveling will be flagged to stop and that.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
they will be flagged and stopped on this one. There's no full-time lane closure planned on this, unlike some of the other projects where we get out the temporary signal and we may have some short term of that when we're working on the one culvert that we're not moving the location, just for the installation issues.
Thank you.
So our next project is the Eric Creek Culvert that's out on Abernathy Creek Road. It's approximately $2.6 million. This is 100% funded with Protect funding, which is promoting resilient. I forget the rest of the words now. So it's an infrastructure program that came out as part of the ILJA. The money was passed directly to the state. The state has earmarked their money for culvert replacement projects. And this is one of the ones that was selected for 100% funding. We are currently the obligation documents are with WashDOT. And as soon as we return those, we will finalize our bid documents and be going out to bid. So I anticipate this going out to bid in January, be a summer construction.
This is fish barrier project.
Yes.
So can you explain to us? It has to be completely replaced. You can't put rock in it and replay, allow fish to pass through.
So this particular project, as you can see, we're looking upstream so that there is a drop in that culvert. In addition, there's very little cover on top of that culvert. The culvert also has a large amount of holes. It's rusted out. We call them dirty, rotten culverts. A lot of the metals are starting to rot out. So the bottom, you can see the rust line partway up. So from there down, it's rusting out. So we are replacing this with a open bottom arch and redoing the stream channel because there's several drops right in the location of the culvert. So 2024 safety projects, these were originally going to go out this fall. We're a little behind on them. We're looking at a February bid. So we've got countywide guardrail and roadside delineators, approximately 0.65 million. It's funded by the Highway Safety Improvement Program at 90%. So about $170,000 of local county funds and about just under $500,000 for federal funds. Garlock Road box culvert replacement. This is a $2 million project. It is funded by the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board at 85%. So there's 1.65 million coming from the state and 0.35 million of local funds. This box culvert, as I was saying, is a short span, is being replaced and the channel addressed for the fish. The next project is one that everybody is eagerly anticipating who lives in Woodland. The Dyke Road Reconstruction Phase 2. It's approximately $2.1 million project. It runs from roughly Wayland Road to where the port way station is on Dyke Road. This is being funded by $1.6 million of CRAB dollars and $0.6 million of local funds. I will preface this, we are widening this roadway as much as we can. It is on top of the dike, which is my only concern why this wouldn't go out to bid next year. Because it's on the dike, we have to get a 408 approval from the Corps, which is in process, but you never know how long those are going to take. So our goal is to have this done. We are going to be doing a recycling of the asphalt in this location. So you grind it up, you add rock and concrete for your base, and then you pave over it, and then putting additional width on it.
On something like this, can you give us a rationale for what put this up in priority?
So in this particular location, the pavement is reaching failure. As you can see, all the alligator, we call them alligator cracks in the foreground because it looks like alligator skin, that crocodiling look. The shoulders sloughing off in the top right of the corner, and that is a patch that the road crew has done. There's also prospects by the port. They are greatly developing that, and every time they pull sand out of one of their sand pits, the road gets completely beat up. So by reinforcing the base, because we've done corings out here, so it's basically like 5 or 6 layers of chip seal on top of, in some locations, no gravel, other locations, 2 inches of gravel. So it's not a strong enough. It wasn't designed and built for the traffic that is currently carrying it, being used out there. And it is an arterial used by all of the trucks, the school buses, and local residents.
And you're going to extend the shoulders?
Yes.
How do you do that? I thought you'd be constrained by the size of the dike.
So when we did the first phase, we did not expand the shoulders for that reason. As you move from Wayland heading to the north, a lot of people, especially on the outside of the dike, have filled up their property in the diking right away, so that there is a wider, you can even see in this picture on the left side, it does not drop off drastically, unlike the right where it drops down. I believe that's into the fruit fields off to the right in this particular picture. So Because the top of the levee has been widened in many locations, it makes it much easier for us to be able to widen the roadway and still be able to catch without having to go hundreds of feet beyond the edge of the road.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the South Tootle Road head wall repair. We discovered this during inspections this summer. This is the crossing at Studebaker Creek. This is one of our short span culverts. If you look where those trees are on to the right, there is, it is a wooden top retaining wall added on the top of this wing wall. That wood is rotting and about to fall in, and it helps support the roadway. So our goal is to design and get that built this upcoming summer before our roadway disappears.
So if I may, with the projects you've presented us, this one seems like it's more pressing.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, it is. And it is a recently discovered one. So it becomes, how are we going to find the resources to get it done? I believe it was found in September or October, because the draft 6-year plan, if you go back and look at the one that was submitted in August, September, did not include this project because we did not know it was an issue. So this is why I always have a copy of the 6-year plan sitting on my desk, and I'm always adding and moving stuff around as things develop. The 6-year plan, we haven't adopted, but it is just that. It's a plan that we try and keep updating so we know what is going on.
Okay, thank you.
So the next are 2022 flood damage repair projects. There's 2 on Hazeldale Road, 1 on West Side Highway, and then 1 on Bates Roads. This is approximately $1.7 million of construction. The biggest project is the Hazeldale Road at milepost 1.78, and that is the site you see pictured there, a wall. And this was after some temporary repairs were made. So these the guardrail hangs in many of these locations, and we've buttressed them the best we could. On short term, we are going to be building a wall in this location, and the road will be down to 1 lane with the traffic signal both ways. The plans are at 95%, so we're going to bid early spring so we can get this done early summer. The other projects are smaller slides. The Hazeldale, this 1.78, and the West Side Highway are the 2 bigger projects, and they are being funded with ARPA dollars. The Bates Road embankment repair, that is as FEMA funding as well as a local match. And then Hazeldale Road 0.58 is a local only dollars, and that's the smallest at about $160,000. So the next slide shows some of our, what I'm calling fall advertisement projects. These are ones that we're working on getting there, and we're getting close, and we're looking at bidding September, October. So we're ready to go when the weather breaks. So we have the Allender Road Bridge replacement that is funded by STP Bridge money. That is currently a undersized bridge that's highly load restricted, and you can't pull a normal tractor trailer across that. The Rock Creek Culvert Tower Road temporary bridge replacement, the picture up there is a picture of the temporary bridge that is planning to go out to bid on in the fall ARPA money, and it's about a $2 million project. And then we have the Pleasant Hill Road culvert replacement is the lingering name, but it is replacement of that temporary bridge out there. That is funded by FEMA, and because of the timing of the event, it's an unusual FEMA match. FEMA's providing 90% of the dollars, the state 5%, and the county only 5%. So the total construction cost on these is $5 million. Very little of that is local funding and is not all in 2024.
You've on that one, you had to redo the supports on both sides of the creek.
So when we did the temporary bridge, we put in supports that we are hoping to reuse 90% on them and more of an add-on than redo. It's just a matter of how we're going to shift stuff around when we're out there working. So included in our 2024 plan are design-only projects. These are projects that we're scheduling for construction. I missed that. I apologize. These are not scheduled for 2024 construction. These are for 2025 and 2026. So Rose Valley Road culvert milepost 7.72. In the 2022 event, the end of that culvert blew out. We were given, and eroded the embankment. We were given a short-term permit from Fish and Wildlife to just Band-Aid that culvert back on and block up that embankment. We've secured federal ER money, so it's going to be funded at 86.5%. We are currently out on the street with an RFQ to obtain a consultant to do the work. So that will be occurring in the summer of 2025. Another project down on Rose Valley Road out quite a bit further, about 11.8. There's some culverts out there at the base of a Weyerhaeuser Road that plug and the road goes under. So we have CRAB funding to replace that drainage issue out there. We have Butte Hill Slide Repair, which is also FEMA funded. Allender Road repair. This is beyond the bridge that we're replacing where the creek is eating into the roadway and narrowing it up. That's an all local dollar project. Rose Valley Bridge number 2 scour repair. So also found this fall during bridge inspections. Rose Valley Road Bridge number 2 is at milepost 1.14. So that's before the school and before the gas line. For those of you familiar to driving out there, there's some scour in the abutment and we're going to design and hopefully repair that 2025. We're really excited about the Owl Creek Bridge replacement project. That's on Old 99 South. So it is just beyond the Kelso city limits and prior to Rose Valley Road. This is a interesting bridge. It was built, half of it was built in the 1930s and the other half in the 1960s. We did a study about 2 years ago if this bridge should be rehabilitated or replaced, and the cost benefit analysis came out replaced is actually more beneficial. So we applied for state and federal bridge replacement funds. This is a $7 million project. As long as we advertise in 2026, it will be 100% funded. So that was a big win that we're excited to move forward. And if we don't meet that advertisement date, the design will be 100% funded and the construction will be 86.5% funded. Don't ask me why they use 86.5%. I don't know. Latham Road culvert replacement, another culvert. It's a larger diameter culvert. I believe it's a 10-footer or 12-footer. That on inspection, there are some issues out there with the culvert starting to rot out. We are looking at some possible funding for it, but we're going to start the design right away so we can be ready as soon as we can find funding. Allender Road culvert number 1 replacement. It's a big box culvert that is also load restricted, and it is a fish passage project. So we have Brian Abbott Fishberry Removal Board money, design money. We are looking right now, the Brian Abbott Fishberry Board grant cycle is open. So we're looking at applying for the construction funding and either going through that route or through the protect funding route that's coming open. North Gobel Creek Road box culvert replacement. It's a loop road, and where the road comes together, you have North Gobel Creek coming into the main stem of Gobel Creek. The North Gobel Creek box culvert is undersized, floods the road. We were just informed last week by Brian Abbott Fishberry Removal Board that they had enough funds turned back because other agencies took the Protect Fund and other grant funding out there for their projects that they are funding below their funding line on the last round, and North Goble Creek was the second project down. So we're receiving funding for that project at 85% for design. And then Italian Creek Culvert, that is a 2022 damaged culvert, and that is FEMA funded. So the design costs are approximately $1.2 million for the year of 2024.
So I was confused. You said this is 2024, but 2025, 26 for the construction is what you meant?
Yes, 25, 26 is construction. 2024, this is what we're starting the design and finishing up the design on multiple of these projects so we can advertise them in 25 and 26. So Public Works is a body that works that way. We have projects that we're finishing, projects that are under construction, projects under design, and then we're looking forward to what our next project is and how we're going to fund them. And then we look back on what we've done to see how we can improve what we've done. So it's a constant moving beast. We don't do the same tasks every year. We're not like the auditors or the assessors. It's a different animal.
Is aging of a design ever an issue?
Yes. So, for example, the North Pacific Avenue Half Bridge. So that one was designed in, I think it was designed before I started. So about 2014, 2013. And there were multiple issues getting the railroad on board. It was a historic structure. So once we finally got through the historic and the railroad was moving along, we went back to the design, and some of the standards for the retaining walls and the guardrails had changed. And since it wasn't grandfathered in and they were safety concerns, those portions of the project needed to be brought up to current standards. So if they do sit around too long, it does become an issue. Fish culverts are the same thing. They changed their mind on what the width needs to be. And we've had one that we've had to go back and increase the size on.
That last concept again, please.
So fish culverts so we work with a lot of scientists on fish, and they
Okay, I
have
got
theories.
you now.
And so they changed that the width of the culvert should be the ordinary high water mark plus 2 feet. And then they've changed that. And so that has happened on one of our projects where we were far along in design and we had to backtrack and redo.
That sounds like it could be a substantial change.
Those can be. And then the bridge was a change, but it wasn't a horrible change. So the breakdown of 2024 funding, we have what we call preliminary engineering at 2.6 million, purchasing right of way at 320,000, and almost $15.8 million. That's broken down with 7 million of federal, 5 million of state, and it shows 6.5 of local. But of that 6.5, just over 5 million is ARPA funding. So we're doing about $1 million of local road funds.
So just as I think probably just a reminder, on top of all this, you've got normal operations of repairing the guardrail that got smashed, the snow plows and treatment.
Yes. So of our budget, our capital budget is a small portion of what we do. We have our cost of the engineers on staff. We have a cost of a road crew. The road crew today is out running culverts and picking up limbs and things of that nature. We have snow plowing in the winter. We run an annual chip seal and overlay. We restripe the roads. We need to repair the guardrail, and then we replace the smaller culverts on our own. So anything that's under 3 feet, the road crew replaces those in the summer. We have our vegetation control and brushing. What else do we do? And that's just the road group itself. At vegetation control, yes, spraying. We have our stormwater, so we're cleaning culverts, both maintenance wise and then during storm events, especially this time of the year, and street sweeping.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's safe to say this is an ever evolving list. I think that it probably starts at what do we need? And that can be changed by, hey, we got funding for this one, so it moves up. So we really have to be flexible in a lot of this.
And I believe it was 2015, we adopted the plan on a Tuesday. We had a big storm on Thursday, so the plan was gone. And in 2022, we adopted it in December, and in January, we had a big flooding event, so we adjust stuff.
So are you telling us a big event is coming?
I hope not. We hope not, but with us,
Yeah.
these things happen.
Any other questions from us up here?
I don't think so. Just to compliment, this is well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last item I had was the fixed asset purchases, which we have to adopt with the annual program. So next year for our road crew, we're buying 2 10-yard dump trucks, tilt trailer, so that they can haul mowers and graders from location to location. So we're replacing one and adding an additional one, and the additional one will bring us so that every shop location has their own, so that when they want something that's at another shop, they don't have to coordinate getting another tilt trailer.
So the cost of a 1999 dump truck, 1999 is the age?
1999 is the age. So we're replacing 2 1999 dump trucks.
Each of them for $340,000?
Yes.
What about the excavator for the chairman?
I believe that's coming from the solid waste fund.
I think we actually gave him okay to do the 2 trucks because they could hold the price. We were concerned about ever
Yes.
inflating prices on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just surprises me that with that, a dump truck usually gets used, and 23-year-old dump truck or 25-year-old dump truck for $340,000 sounds like I'm in the wrong business.
Okay, well then we'll open the public hearing. You can comment.
So my comment, again, very good presentation. Appreciate that. On your funding, we're up at the 3rd or 4th page in, you said state funding at $18,680,000. It would appear that we have some opportunity since the initiatives by our leadership in Olympia, the carbon tax and miscellaneous charging us fuel have generated over $1 billion already. I would think that through your resources and our resources, our lobbyists and our representatives ought to put a little bit of that money to work, et cetera. And since the state has a heck of a hard time figuring out what to do with it, we in the counties and areas should be able to put it to use.
Yeah. Ironically, I got an email this morning, Ron, on that very subject from our lobbying group we call WASAC, starting to gather information from the counties to how some of that could come back to the county. So yeah, it's a good point.
Of course, if we wanted to buy electric dump trucks, we could probably do that.
We're just teasing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, big batteries on the trailer. Yeah.
No, it's a diesel generator that sits on the platform.
Well, as everybody's commented, very good
Thank you.
presentation. Are you replacing 1999 trucks or are you buying 1999 trucks?
We are replacing 1999 trucks.
Okay, yeah.
Much better.
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause, yeah, the
sorry.
reason that old used prices go up is everybody wants old equipment, so they have to put up with all the new regulations on the engines and everything. A question, the pricing, the estimates that you've got in here, have you accounted for inflation? Or is this an estimate at the time that you put the project together, or how are we gonna account for inflation?
So these are reviewed every year. I review this document. They are probably set at current prices for 24 and 25 projects. And then those rolling out, we do put a little inflation on it, but it's been so hard to predict.
Yeah.
So it is an issue. They have been finding it with the grant agencies, with Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board. That has been a big issue for them because the bridge prices and the open bottom culvert prices have skyrocketed because there are so many projects going on. The manufacturers, that's the other reason we bid them early. The manufacturers are backed up and the lead time is gone from 2 months to 6 to 9 months, depending on what you're bidding. So, and then their prices are going up. So they're having people who thought they put enough money in their grant application to cover their costs. Now the costs have gone up $100,000, $200,000 just on the materials.
So would you say your numbers might be, well, not going to be plus or minus, which is what you'd normally say, but no minus?
I doubt they're minus. They're probably plus.
Thank you.
And along those lines, you probably incorporate a fudge factor for change orders, or is that?
So that is we have a miscellaneous construction line in most of our projects, and that we usually put in some dollars for unexpected items. So when you apply for the grants, they have a line that they will let you add a certain percentage above what your estimate is.
Okay.
Okay. And Larry, we saw that a little bit on the safety sign deal. If you remember, the state had to they came back to us with an additional 100 plus.
Yes,
111, yeah.
Yeah, 111, just because of what you were talking about. Any other questions on this? Ron?
Good question, Laurie, on inflation. I would just further request that maybe you would send a note to our presidential press secretary. They are talking about inflation going down, but they don't realize that it's just going up slower than it was.
That's government economics, Ron. Any other questions on this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And then we need to address item 27, which is approval of the resolution
so
for what we just heard.
you have two resolutions, actually. You have the one that goes with the public hearing where you adopt the 6-year plan, and then we have the resolution for the annual program.
So I make a motion to approve the 2024 through 2029 6-year transportation improvement program as presented.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Just a compliment. I said that without a speech dysfunction.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
You're talking about resolution 27. And I think you said 24 to 29 program, and this just talks about purchases for 24. Did I miss something here?
So the first is the 2024, we have to adopt the 6-year plan,
Yeah.
and then we'll do the resolution.
Oh, okay.
So right
the
now,
way-
this
yeah.
is on this.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. See no hands. Anybody else approaching and call for a vote? Those in favor?
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you. So now we need to entertain item 27, which is the resolution, right? Okay.
Correct.
For the 2024 purchases. You're it.
Yes, indeed. Sorry about that. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the resolution to adopt the annual construction program and fixed asset purchases for 2024.
2 times in a row. Yeah. Questions, comments on that? Seeing none, call for the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Okay, we're back open for public comment if we have any. If not, we will adjourn. Thank you.
With an advertisement of the meeting tomorrow again?
The meeting tomorrow at 1:30. Yeah, that should hold interest for people, Community House on Broadway. And then some budget, two main budget items, mental health tax and drug court. So that'll be tomorrow, 1:30. Same place, same time. That we adjourn. Thank you.